All right, everyone. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, probably becoming famous for these surprise live streams. My apologies once again. We will get a schedule squared away before week one of the college football season. But at least we're live. At least we're taking your calls. And at least we are checking out the live chat room here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So our number is 860-325-3687. I'm also going to make some important announcements concerning some offers that you'll be able to take part of. So again, the live chat room is open, and of course, I'll get to your comments and your questions, and also the call-in show is wide open at 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. There we go, 860-325-3687. So let's open up the chat room and see what you guys have on your minds. Let's see, it's a Friday. So tomorrow's Saturday. I think we're 4 weeks away. We're 4 weeks away from college football, just 4 weeks away from college football. MCD Sports 4, good to see you, as well as Captain Trips, go Gators. Of course, that's the big opener, Miami and Florida. The last line I saw was Florida -7.5. George is on the line. He's got to take off in 10 minutes, but at least I came by to like the video. Yes, he did. Comic Dude 45, thanks so much for joining. 5 watching, only 3 likes. I will take that ratio, though, George. Maybe George is calling since he's only got 10 minutes with us. All right, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George.
Hey, George, what's going on?
I got to take off in about 10 minutes, so I had to jump in early.
Or so I hear. Yes. What you got?
Yeah. I was messing with the people in the chat. I said there's 5 viewing and only 3 likes. Like, let's get to the bottom of this. Who is it?
I read your comment.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out when there's 250 people in there and 84 likes. But right now, we can narrow this down.
Is this vain of me? I hate wearing my glasses, but I'm going to have to because I don't have my contacts in and I cannot see the comments. And I also have this feature now. I can put the comments right on the screen. So we're going to highlight your comment to start out the night. 5 watching, 3 likes. We got to get to the bottom of this. So everybody make George happy. And now we've got 16 watching. So like the video, please.
Yeah. It's going up exponentially.
Are you starting to get nervous?
I'm over it. I'm just, I was nervous for a minute, but I'm over it. I'm just going to be bold and predict we win every game all year and go with the flow, see what happens.
Okay. I'm not going to quite go that route. I got to say, George, I'm really not considering your Gators for an SEC championship, but it wouldn't shock me. You're the number 2 team in the East, and maybe Jake Fromm goes down. I don't want that to happen, God forbid, but maybe Jake Fromm goes down, and that would certainly open up the path.
You know what would really be great? If he just quits football and goes into modeling.
Goes into modeling. That would be possibly a destination for him.
He could be a bow tie model.
I am not going to go any further in my my evaluation of Jake Fromm's ability to go into that field in particular. I'm going to stay with my football evaluation that he's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft.
You know why I love being a Gator? Because first of all, a lot of people hate us, and I don't know why that just makes me so happy. I thrive on it.
Well, that means you're good.
If we weren't good, they wouldn't hate on us. And another thing I love about it is even on a sorry year with a bad coach and not the top-notch team, we are just as likely to beat anybody as they are to beat us. Nobody can take us for granted, and I don't think we really take anybody else for granted. And, we get upset by Kentucky, Missouri once in a while. That's okay. We're always in the top, whatever. We're good. We're getting better. I'm excited.
I'm going to remind you, George. I'm going to remind you one thing, though. You're good. You're not great, and you've been good for 1 year. Good for 1 year.
Yeah.
Got to back it up this year.
You have to beat the best.
Yeah, you got to take the next step. So jumping from 4 wins to 10, great. Nice job. But to make that next step, you got to start beating teams like Georgia.
Georgia's an upstart. We're the Blueblood.
Georgia's an upstart.
Good years.
Georgia's an upstart.
Now we have to go, and now they got a bunch of 5 stars. It's a hurdle. I admit it, but I think we're good enough. We have the best 22 starters in college football, I like to say.
George, don't pull a deep Barat who is trying to tell me that Texas has had a better run than Michigan State over the last 10 years. I did.
15 out of the 22.
I didn't want to embarrass him, but I just had to. He called for it.
Those poor Texas fans, man. Hey, they're just going to have to do it first, just like Michigan, or anybody, Nebraska, anybody. Like, do it, and we'll all believe. Willie Taggart, anybody, Miami, do it first, and then we will all be believers. But in the meantime, Florida's a blue blood, and we never have to be too embarrassed,
Define a blue blood. I don't know if you're a blue blood.
We're just always up there. LSU's another one. We're always top 10, top 6, top something, a bad year, 15, 20, really, really bad year, but that don't happen too often.
Our guy Ian is digging deep. He's coming up with some meaningful stats here. He just posted in 7 games against bowl-eligible teams last year, Felipe Franks only threw 6 touchdowns and 4 picks.
He's a good boy. He loves his mother. He was young. He's coming along.
All right, George, we're going to run down the Blue Bloods. Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, got Nebraska and Penn State on the fence. Florida State's on the fence. I didn't get to Florida.
I didn't hear my name in there.
I didn't get to Florida, George.
Maybe after this year they'll put us on that list.
That's gonna vault you there.
All I know is I wouldn't want to be Notre Dame or USC. I know that.
So being a blue blood isn't necessarily a great thing. It can be. It means that you've been prominent at one time. You were prominent from the start, basically, or for the longest period of college football. But Notre Dame's been doing nothing for 25 plus years. So they're still a blue blood. They'll be a blue blood.
We are a blue blood to the players coming out of high school. That's all I care about. They love Florida.
Do they?
It's starting to look up for us. All we have to do is beat Georgia this year, and they will recognize Kirby's bowl cut is indicative of something more than fashion.
That's all you need to do. Okay. I could probably take some shots at Dan Mullen's hairstyle as well.
That's okay.
I think we could do that.
Safe in Gainesville. I don't know what happens if he leaves Gainesville, but he's safe in Gainesville. Man, anyway, I've never seen so many great football teams assembled, ready to play each other of all my life of watching football. There are just so many good teams, and every game matters. The whole year is a playoff. It's from the first game. Let's go.
All right. I'm getting some calls to get you off the phone, George. Can you imagine?
Thanks, man. I gotta go.
I don't think these people realize, though, that you've commented to the channel more than anyone. So that will never change my mind about taking a George phone call.
Somebody might usurp my place someday, but I was the first.
You were the first. All right, George. You have a great night. I appreciate the call.
Still on in a half an hour, 45 minutes. I'll be back. Talk to you later.
All right, George. We'll see you.
Bye.
The length of the show right now is being dictated by dinner plans that are out of my jurisdiction. So out of my control right now, dinner plans. But I thought I had an opening. Bam. Let's go live. Let's see what folks have to talk about. And bam, we get George out of the gate. Be right back. We're certainly comforted by that, George, that you're going to be back. Uncle Lou, nobody even knew Florida had a football team until the late 80s. Pretty much. No way they're a blue blood. Had some good season early 80s, but yeah, really broke through, obviously, then later with Spurrier. Ryan Fair's on the line. Well, Uncle Lou, not necessarily this weekend, but future ones. All right. The number 860-325-3687. People are asking for the number 860-325-3687. Let me call it up. There you go. All right, everyone. Yeah, 4 weeks away. Can't wait. I got so much work to do. I have not released a real full season preview on anybody, but I've got all sorts of notes flying around here, so we're going to get right to that. I also wanted to announce some an offer that we have that's in correlation and in connection with our guy Volunteer Roadshow, Bobby. So I'll get to that in a minute, but I wanted to take some calls, 860-325-3687, and actually I'll make that probably a separate video. We had a nice conversation. I think this was yesterday, just released it a few hours ago with Mitch Light. He's the managing editor at Athlons. Thought it was a solid conversation on who the real contenders are, who are the wild cards. We talked about storylines for the 2019 season. Plenty of position previews out there. I talked Penn State today and also got around to Texas today with some position previews, and those are going to be out very, very soon. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who we got on the line?
Hey, Mark, Michael Hoke. How you doing, sir?
Got Michael calling from a bowling alley, it sounds like.
No, I'm at the county fair tonight.
Okay, down at the county fair. All right, Michael, how are you?
Not too bad. I hope you're having a great day, Tabor.
Absolutely.
Quick question.
Yep.
One, besides Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, and Wisconsin, the Big Ten, East and West, who do you think could be a sleeper to knock them off and make it get Indianapolis? And also, is this to make a break here for Jim Harbaugh?
Well, are you talking about in my eyes, in regards to Harbaugh, or Michigan's eyes?
Yeah, both. But I'll start with you.
So, Michael, unless Jim Harbaugh has a disastrous season, he's going to be the Michigan coach in 2020. If he goes anything in the realm of 8-4 or better, even though that's going to just open up the floodgates of criticism and disgust among the Michigan fan base, he's not going to get fired unless he has a disastrous season, even if he loses to Ohio State. I do believe that if he loses to Ohio State and does not complete the mission of winning a Big Ten championship and beating the Buckeyes, that will put him on serious alert for 2020. That will be the make or break year. But this is the year to get it done. New quarterback, new coach, game at Michigan, probably an easier schedule in conference than Ohio State. This is the year to get it done.
And I agree.
What was your other question? Oh, the sleeper team in the Big Ten. Well, you took 4 teams away from me, 2 in each division. So the likely candidate in the Big Ten Eastern Division is Penn State. The recruiting has been close to on par with Ohio State, has certainly been on par with Michigan. Sean Clifford, for as much respect as we all have for Trace McSorley, is a better passer than Trace McSorley. The passing game at Penn State was awful last year. They really fell off the cliff once they lost to the receivers that they had the previous season that won the Fiesta Bowl and took them to the Rose Bowl. So they've got a young receiving core and they got a young quarterback. If those 2 units come together, Penn State might have the best defense in the Big Ten. They would be if we can ever consider Penn State a sleeper in the Big Ten Eastern Division. Even though Michigan State's got the best front 7, most likely in the conference. If you go to the West, I got to think that the quarterback play at Minnesota is going to develop quite a bit since those 2 quarterbacks, Zan Annexstad and Tanner Morgan, didn't play so well through about 8 to 10 games last year and then really came on. Tanner Morgan did when he won the job in November. They beat a lot of good teams in November. They beat Georgia Tech in the bowl game by 24 points. They had the youngest team in the country last year at Minnesota. So those players got a ton of experience and good experience. They would be my selection after you take away Nebraska and Wisconsin, even though a lot of people like Iowa, and Iowa certainly has a more established quarterback in Nathan Stanley.
Okay. And one last thing before I let you go. How short is the leash for Elijah Sindelar this year with Jack Butler and with Jim Butler producing?
Well, I think he's got a couple options there at quarterback, and he's not been afraid to play two quarterbacks since he's been there these 2 seasons. So Jeff Brom is not going to stand for poor quarterback play, so he will pull that trigger very quickly. He is a offensive guru, and he cannot stand poor quarterback play, so he would pull that trigger rather quickly. He's already done it through 2 seasons.
All right. Hey, Mark, thanks so much. Have a great weekend, man.
Enjoy that fair, Michael. Have a good one. All right, the number is 860-325-3687. Just thought I would jump on here out of nowhere. And again, I apologize for these impromptu live streams. They just come out of nowhere, and I find some time and say, hey, let's strike up the live stream. I will work on a live stream schedule for the season that I can release here very soon. We did format a schedule last season, and it worked pretty well. So I will figure out what I can do. But the work schedule has not cooperated recently for me as much as it did last football season, unfortunately. Most of my nights taken away. That's why we just blitz Wednesday night. That's why we blitz Wednesday night with a 7 o'clock Florida State live stream, Miami at 8, and Ohio State at 9, and do even more after that because that's my one free night after work. The rest of the time, I'm at the Worldwide Leader each and every night. Daniel, yes, live streams on Tuesday nights would be awesome. Maybe I'll remotely, no, I can't do that. Maybe I'll remotely strike up a live stream and you guys can just chat all night on Tuesday night. Yes, that would be tremendous. All right. And you know what I'm working on? We're getting rid of this in just a few days as well. All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Darren McCardle.
Hey, Darren, how are you?
I'm doing good. I've been away. That's the reason I haven't really been around. I've been working a lot of hours.
Okay.
I was just wondering, what do you think the chances of Miami and Florida getting in the top 10 this year at the end of the year and possibly in playoffs? And the second question is, who do you think the Cinderella team is going to be this year in the top 10 at the end of the year?
Darren, you set me up for the Jim Moore line. You know what the Jim Moore line is. Playoffs? Playoffs? Okay. Miami's not going to a playoff this year. Florida has a better chance. Certainly the SEC champion will be in the playoff. There would have to be Armageddon for the SEC champion not to make it. I don't think Florida is ready to take that step and really seriously challenge Georgia. They made it a game until about 10 minutes left. It was a 1-point game last year in Jacksonville. But I think they have too many issues along the offensive line, and the defense is not at vintage Florida standards. But Florida certainly, I've not made my final prediction on Florida football, but it looks like a 9-3 football team to me. Most likely that means they're going to go 5-3 in the SEC and go 9-3 overall. So that puts them on the fringe of the top 10, depending on what they do in postseason play, Darren. Miami is not a top 10 football team. I don't believe it would not be just an utter shock if they had an outstanding season, and they certainly have a weak schedule. I ranked Miami to have the weakest schedule off the top of my head in Power 5 football, aside from some of the independents. So they have a light touch with Louisville out of the other division. And certainly Florida State needs to come back. I projected Miami in the spring to go 8-4 this season. I'm getting to still look at that. I certainly took a beating from Miami fans about picking them to lose 4 games. Maybe we'll up that to a 9-3. But the predictions will come out about 2 weeks before the season starts. All right, Darren. Anything else? I think you had a third question in there somewhere.
I had a second question. Who do you think the Cinderella team is going to be in the top 10 this year at the end of the year?
Okay, the most surprising team that could make the top 10. So would we consider Utah to be a surprise team?
Yeah, that would be a good example.
There you go. That would be your team. That Utah team, they've got a lousy non-conference schedule. They got their quarterback, running back, best wide receivers back. They always play great defense along the front 7. They have 2 all Pac-12 performers along the defensive front. They play in the weakest division in Power 5 football. Well, Pac-12 South, ACC Coastal, it's certainly there for the taking for Utah to win 10 games in the regular season and finish in the top 10.
Okay, now a wild card. What about top 5? Do you think any chance of a Cinderella team getting in the top 5?
You know, as a college football fan, Darren, I sure hope so. I had this conversation with a number of people. I had this conversation with Mitch Light from Athlons the other day. Basically, if you think about it, for about 5 years, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Ten and the Big 12 have been locked down. I know that Michigan State got through in 2015, but basically we've known what the deal has been. Ohio State's been the best team in the Big Ten since Urban Meyer showed up, even though they've not won every Big Ten championship. The ones that they haven't won, we've thought, yeah, they're still the best team. Oklahoma's been the best team in the Big 12 going back to, except for the TCU year with Baylor in 2014 for a long time. Alabama's, of course, had the SEC locked down forever. You know, they did have to deal with the kick 6, and Auburn squeaked through in 2013. But besides that, it's been Alabama, and now Georgia challenging Alabama. And, of course, Clemson. If there is a team that is a bigger favorite in the history of college football to win a conference than Clemson is this year, I would love to know who that team is. So I would love to see somebody break through. You would consider Notre Dame to have been a sleeper?
Well, after all the years they pretty much played, last year was their best year. So you consider them getting into the playoffs last year, it was kind of, they were kind of like the Cinderella team. Don't get me wrong, Notre Dame's a good team.
Sure.
But they're not, to me, considered a playoff team until last year. Last year they were a playoff team. But before then, it was like, well, I don't think they'll get in. They got in. So, in my opinion, they are considered a Cinderella last year.
Well, see, this is why scheduling is so important, Darren. If you really looked at the Notre Dame team that showed up last year versus the team the year before, they were slightly better, but they weren't really that much better. Their schedule got much easier. So they pretty much roll out the same schedule every year, pretty much. They play the 5 in the ACC. They play Michigan. They play a number of other traditional games against Stanford and USC and Navy. They pretty much have the same structure of a schedule every year. Well, what happened last year? Florida State was awful. Virginia Tech was awful. Stanford was down. I'm missing a couple other teams that they always play that were down a bit, but certainly Florida State, Virginia Tech, and Stanford down. USC down. So they caught a break in their scheduling last year. Not that they didn't schedule tough, because I respect Notre Dame's scheduling. They schedule tough, but a number of those teams had down years. So it all fell into place for them last year. As soon as they beat Michigan in the opener, and they had that game at home at night, they could have as good a team this year as they had last year. They could have a better team this year, but they've got to go to Georgia. They've got to go to Michigan. Stanford's going to be better. USC probably will be better. They run into a few teams in the ACC that are difficult outs. They've got Virginia this year. So I love your call on Notre Dame, and you're correct. They had not made the college football playoffs, certainly. And really in 2015, that was their one shot to make the playoffs, and they had a pretty legitimate shot to get there. But Was that the year that they lost to Stanford late? Or did they knock out Stanford? One or the other. They knocked out Stanford, but they lost a close game late in the season as well that knocked them out of the playoff. So you're still waiting for a national championship type wild card to make the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I would say UCF was the Cinderella team. Last year it was Notre Dame, but Notre Dame went further because of their reputation. This year, I was just wondering who you think is going to be it.
Well, I
Iowa?
don't. Did you say Iowa?
Yeah, you think Iowa's going to be in there?
Well, I would have to double check Iowa's schedule. I believe that they play 2 of the big 3 or big 4 in the Big Ten East, so that doesn't bode well. And the division is just so balanced now. I love that division now, that Nebraska is likely to emerge. I think the Big Ten Western Division is going to be a whole lot of fun for everyone to watch, but I do not think Iowa can get
a bigger chance.
Yeah, Iowa is not going to finish 11-1. That's what they need to do to finish in the top 5. Yeah, I'm going to take you back out to the Pac-12 for Utah. Not that I'm predicting them to finish in the top 5, but if you're looking for an outside team, you go Utah or Oregon. Stanford's schedule's way too tough. They've scheduled brutal this year.
Now they got to play UCF at the beginning of the year, right?
So they've got this is Stanford's 3. So they play a 9-game conference schedule. So they only got the 3 non-conference games. And so you typically have the group of 5 and the Power 5. And of course, they've got a group of 5 in UCF, but they're not your run-of-the-mill group of 5. UCF, Northwestern, and Notre Dame. That's Stanford's out-of-conference schedule. I would love to see other teams schedule like that.
Well, I don't see Oregon beating Notre Dame, and I don't see them beating UCF, but they can beat Northwestern. That was a definite positive.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else for me, Darren?
You think it's going to be all one-loss teams in the playoffs this year like last year? I mean, you think, I may be asking the question wrong, but you think, how many teams do you think is going to be undefeated at the end of the year? You think it's going to be Alabama and Clemson?
If I were a betting man, I would say 1.
Or you think other teams are going to go in undefeated?
1. Darren, you're putting me on the grill here. I haven't made my final predictions, but I'm trying to pull through the best I can. I'm going to go with a 1 undefeated team at the end of the year, which is going to be Clemson. Although, you start working on a 30-game winning streak. That doesn't happen very often, but that schedule is not good.
Yeah. Well, Alabama's only tough team they play in the whole year is against Auburn.
What?
I mean, then they
come on,
to the
Darren.
Playoffs, then it's different. But during the regular season, their toughest team they play against is Auburn.
So you're telling me that Alabama's toughest game is Auburn?
Every year, that's pretty much their toughest team.
What do you think about LSU and Texas A&M?
They always hype LSU, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they play against each other, Alabama just whoops up on them.
Well, they certainly did last year. Yes, they did, and they have other times. But that game has been extremely competitive, Darren. If we went through, yes, Alabama has beaten LSU every time they played going back to the 2011 National Championship game. So what is that, 2012 through 18? That's 7 straight years plus the championship game. They've beaten them 8 straight times. You're right. But only a couple of those games have been out of hand. Last year's game, 29-0, awful, very disappointing game. There was one other Alabama route in there. Leonard Fournette only had like 22 yards rushing, and they really clamped down. But if you look through the scores year to year, they have had some barn burners in that series, Darren. There was one game went to overtime. There was a 14-0 game, but it was or was a 10-0 game, but it was 0-0 with like 8 minutes left. They have typically played Alabama well. They just don't get the job done. But yeah, last year's game was an utter disappointment and domination by Bama. But I expect Texas A&M, especially at home, and LSU to give Bama a bit of a run. A bit of a run.
They're going to have better defense.
Who's going to have better defense? Texas A&M?
Texas A&M and LSU.
LSU is going to have an exceptional defense this year.
That's good. Because LSU does good until they play against Alabama, and then they get kind of downhill. And it's just my opinion, but Alabama's only tough team they play is Auburn. Now, they may slip up, and like they did against that Cinderella team last year, that they didn't wake up until the second half, but I don't see that happening this year because they're way too good a team. Don't tell me, don't make me out to be an Alabama lover because I'm not an Alabama lover, but I see it as a call. Alabama's always been tough, and they always play tough, and I just see it as I call it. I call it as I see it.
Well, you're right. Nobody challenged Alabama in the regular season. They got their first real game against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Texas A&M gave them their most difficult game, and it really wasn't a difficult game. It was a one-score game late in the first half.
Yeah. But Auburn always gives them their equality because, like, one year Auburn will win, next year Alabama will win, and it's always a close game. And
well, not always a close game. That was a blowout last year. That was a 52-21 game. Yeah. But you're right. Most of the time, Auburn gives Alabama a run, but certainly not last year. Auburn's got a brutal schedule to deal with. Very difficult.
Think Auburn will beat Alabama this year? You think they just
well, they've got the defense. The issue there is the quarterback situation for Auburn, but we're talking game 12. So by that time, the young quarterback, whoever wins the quarterback job, whether that's Bo Nix or Joey Gatewood's going to have 11 games under his belt and be prepared, you would think, not necessarily, a freshman at that point. They have the wide receivers to do it. Exceptional wide receiver talent, exceptional front line on defense. I would question Auburn's secondary, and they've got to find somebody to run the football. Their running back situation's a bit shaky. But I believe they've got that game at home. Yeah, they're going to be back at home on the Plains for the Alabama game, and that's always been good news for them.
Yeah, Auburn's always tough at home. I think that's when Cam Newton ended up beating Alabama. Was at home, wasn't it?
Sure. Wait a minute. Some Alabama fans might correct me on this. That was in 2010. That game, I believe, I'm almost positive, was in Tuscaloosa because the even-numbered years are in Tuscaloosa. The odd-numbered years are at Auburn. So that was 2010. I believe Cam Newton actually beat Alabama, trailing 24-0, made the comeback in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. You got other calls.
All right, Darren.
But I'll try to make a call back sometime. It's very hard to catch you when you're live because I'm always tend to be working Monday through Thursday, 10-hour shifts. Friday is my shop day.
Well, we appreciate you stopping by, Darren. And I know that it's been difficult to catch these live streams also because I just throw them out there. And I'm going to have to really look at my schedule and figure out when I can go live on a regular basis so you guys can all anticipate and know when the schedule calls for the live stream. Darren, you have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We are happy to announce an offering with Volunteer Roadshow and his situation with his son, and certainly a an offering that I'll go more into detail, maybe cut a video a little bit later. So be on the lookout for that. That's all I'm asking. I'll probably get a call here pretty soon, so I don't want to go into the details now. But just to let you know, to be on the lookout for a few announcements coming up, one involving our predictions and one also connected to our predictions, where there will be a special prediction made each and every week to help out Bobby's situation. All right. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Fortunately, just a few minutes before I started the live stream, I was looking at links of cables that we will be using to eliminate the phone right into the microphone. So that's going to be an exciting day for me. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McGee School Sport.
Oh, there he is. How are you?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
I'm just going to talk about a few things. Number one, I've been watching a lot of predictions lately because I just came back from vacation last week, so now I'm in complete college football mode. I'm watching all these predictions, and a lot of people have Maryland going 5-7, missing out of the bowl game. I think they don't know what this Maryland offense is about. I'm telling you, the Maryland offense is going to be one of the top fast-paced offenses in the entire country. They're going to run some defenses off the field this year. I'm telling you that right now.
So you like the hire with Mike Loxley, and certainly he's shown us that offense and other stops, and you think that he's going to be able to do it there at Maryland. Now, is Josh Jackson definitely the quarterback?
I think you have to go with him at quarterback. I like Digmore, but I think Josh Jackson's better.
Yeah. And then they still have, what's the other kid's name with the long last name? Max Bortenschlager.
Yeah.
Is that the kid's name?
I think so. I know Tyson Hill went in the transfer portal. I don't know what happened with that, but I think our starting quarterback needs to be Josh Jackson, and the backup needs to be Pigmore. And hopefully Josh Jackson can stay healthy.
So there's going to be other reasons, MCV Sports 4, that you really like Maryland. I know that you're a Maryland fan, and I'm hoping that you're trying to take your bias out of it and why you're so optimistic besides them running an up-tempo offense. So a lot of teams in the country that are going to be running up-tempo offenses.
This one's going to be one of the fastest-paced ones.
Okay, and that's the sole reason you like this team. And that's the sole reason you like this team to win like 8 games.
I like my team winning 8 games because of this offense, correct.
Okay, I need a little bit more to go on than that Maryland's just going to run a fast-paced offense for them to win 8 or 9 games. I do think that you had the 2 consecutive really good recruiting classes under DJ Durkin.
That's another argument. Yeah, I mean, Mike Loxley, he's going to be coaching 2 top 25 recruiting classes that DJ Durkin recruited before he was terminated with that whole incident. So that's another reason why I think this team's going to be good. I think Mike Loxley actually has some talent.
I anticipate watching every play of that Syracuse game. I want to see how good this Maryland team is, and I want to see them against Syracuse. Not that Syracuse is the gold standard, but they were really good last year for Syracuse. I knocked down some ACC people and some Syracuse people a little bit. I know that they're giddy over Syracuse going 10-3, but it was a bit of the 10-3 was a bit soft, but all credit goes to Dino Babers for at least we think he's turned the program around. I'm not completely sold. It's one season. It might have been an aberration, but Syracuse, Maryland, that's going to tell me a lot about both of those teams.
One thing to know about Syracuse, Mark, just giving you the heads up, that game is right before Clemson, so it's in Maryland, so I do think that is kind of a trap game right there for Syracuse. I do think we will win that game, per se. But I just think it's kind of a trap game for Syracuse. Even if I wasn't a Terps fan, I would pick the Terps. I would probably pick the Terps to win it, since it's a trap game for Syracuse, in my opinion.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Just like the Syracuse game is after the Texas A&M game, correct, for Clemson. So Clemson's got Texas A&M at home. Then they turn around and they go to Syracuse.
Correct. And the Syracuse Mail game is at 12 p.m. I think it's going to be on ESPN, I believe.
Okay. Got a little programming update for us. Very nice.
But two other reasons why I called up Mark. The first reason is I was just watching videos and stuff throughout YouTube and a bunch of media day coaches interviews and stuff. The one thing I am surprised about, I'm actually kind of stunned about Ole Miss. They're back from their bowl ban. They don't have a bowl ban anymore going into this season. You would think there'll be more hype around Ole Miss since they don't have a bowl ban anymore. But unless I'm missing it, there's no hype around that Ole Miss Rebels team.
What hype is there supposed to be? They lost their starting quarterback. They're going to be starting a freshman quarterback. They play in a brutal division. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to get to a bowl game. I think they have a very narrow path to a bowl game. I believe they always play Vandy out of the SEC East, so that's a light touch. Certainly they could win that game, but they could certainly lose the game. But they're playing most likely the worst team in the SEC East, but they also have Missouri. So they could be playing better teams out of the East. So the schedule's a bit of a break, but still they only have Arkansas to pick on in the SEC West. They've got a game against Cal that's going to be fairly difficult. And their opener against Memphis on the road is going to be very difficult. They've got a very narrow path to get to a bowl game.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, you would think the fans would be happy that they could get back to a bowl game. That's all I was.
Oh, sure, they should be. They should be ecstatic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not seeing that anywhere. That was the point I was trying to make there. You would think the fans would at least be happy. We should get back to a bowl game finally.
Well, MCD Sports 4, if you want me to cut a video where we go crazy and celebrate Ole Miss's eligibility for a bowl game, we can do that. I'll get some streamers and some balloons, and we can have a big time.
I mean, if Ole Miss does make a bowl game, hopefully we get my Terps because we're better than them. So, I mean, hopefully that's the case. But overall, I was just surprised not to see Ole Miss fans just happy that the team's back in a bowl game. And then the third and final point I want to make is basically, I can't believe, I know I ran about this before, I still can't believe the hype that Minnesota is getting.
You hate the Gophers. You just hate them.
I have family that lives up there in Minnesota, and I'm telling you, I don't get the hype. I really don't. I think it's a good offense. I'll admit that. But I think there's a few questions on the defense. And all they did last year was beat some average teams in the Big Ten West, and they beat the triple option in the Quick Lane Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So against Georgia Tech, and Paul Johnson's final game, which by the way I think it's going to be great that Georgia Tech doesn't have Paul Johnson anymore for recruiting purposes. But overall, I just don't get this hype. I think we go in there and beat Minnesota for the third year in a row, my Terps. Because last year we ran them off the field. So,
well, the hype has to do with a number of factors here. First, PJ Fleck's track record, first at Western Michigan, was he took over an awful program. He had a 1-11 season at Western Michigan, and within a couple of years, took them to the Cotton Bowl. They were undefeated. So there seems to be a trajectory working for PJ Fleck at Minnesota. They were really bad 2 years ago. I think they went 5-7, only went 2-7 in the Big Ten. They started out 2018 in a similar fashion. It looked like it was going to be an awful season. He fired the defensive coordinator, Rob Smith. I can't think of the gentleman's name that took over the defense, but anyway, they changed out defensive coordinators, and they were just light and night and day, just a completely different team in November. Yes, they didn't beat the best teams in the world, but they rolled over Wisconsin. They rolled over Purdue. They barely lost to Northwestern by 4 points. They trucked Georgia Tech, and this is a conversation for DeAndre, because I try to enlighten him on comparing Big Ten and ACC football from last year. And here's one case in point. Minnesota is a 3-6 team in the Big Ten. They beat a 5-3 team in the ACC in the bowl game by 24 points. So you've got a quarterback situation where you had poor quarterback play out of two completely inexperienced players in Morgan and Zanikstad. And by November, they gave Morgan the job. He played extremely well. They've got one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten in Tyler Johnson. They fielded MCD Sports for the youngest team in Power 5 football last year. And all those kids got a ton of experience. And they're back as experienced sophomores and juniors. They're not a great team. They don't recruit at that level. But I can see the components in play to be excited about Minnesota this year.
That's fair enough. I'll give you that. But I'm just saying, I just don't really see it. I think they make a bowl game, but that's just about it. They might win the bowl game. They might lose. I'm not going to get into that. And I have a quick point that I thought of just right before I let you go here. I absolutely agree with the media saying that Virginia is going to beat Miami in the ACC Coastal. I think that's a wonderful prediction. Bryce Perkins is the best quarterback in the ACC Coastal, the second best quarterback in the ACC. And I think he's better than it. I think he's the best player between both of those teams. And I think Virginia is going to go to the ACC championship and then go ahead and lose to Clemson. But that's my opinion. But that's just what I have. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it all out, MCD Sports 4, but we'll have our predictions out. Believe me.
Well, I'm going to let you go. I'm sure someone wants to call in.
Absolutely.
Ring about something else, and hope you have a good one, Mark.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. So at least MCD Sports 4 didn't hit me with the 16 playoff tonight. I would have had to put him in his place. But we were getting some calls in while he was on the line. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to him. So please call back. 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. And let's see. I told you when I started this 47 minutes ago that my dinner plans may cut this short, but it looks like we're still rolling along. So there we go. So I will take continued calls, and we'll check out the live stream as well with the live chat. So call on in, 860-325-3687. I'm really going to have to grind down my schedule, look it over, and get everyone a set schedule for football season. So I've got about a month to do that and figure out when we can be on here for live streams. My work schedule's been changed since last football season. It's not been conducive to doing nighttime live streams, except for our big Wednesday night, of course. And I hope all of you are aware, 7 o'clock Florida State Talk, Miami at 8, and Ohio State at 9. That's every Wednesday night live shows with the Noles, the Canes, and the Buckeyes. All right, let's get back to the comments. And I had Volunteer Roadshow on. We had some business to talk about, a few ventures that we're planning, one of which I alluded to in regards to the betting and the predictions that I'll have out that are connected to a fundraiser. And I'll explain that all in a video that's coming your way very soon. But he made a comment about a lot of the people that are going to take part in this kind of a fun prediction contest that we're having. Had pegged me as the favorite. And whoa, wait a minute. I'm no odds maker. I'm no handicapper. My prediction record has been pretty good. And that's something I'm going to release as well in the next several days. I'm going to run through all the numbers. And I'm going to show you what my prediction record has been over the years. We'll post that It's verified. It's on YouTube. The timestamps are right there. So it's right there. Okay, MCD Sports Force. I'm starting to push him. I pushed him toward an 8-teamer instead of that crazy 6-team with the bye weeks. All right. A lot of Missouri talk tonight. People like Missouri out of the SEC Eastern Division. Hopefully they can, for a college football sense, hopefully they get their eligibility back and we can see them in postseason play. It's always unfortunate because the wrong people get punished in these situations. Those players had nothing to do with that situation. All right. Anything else? Is there any news out today? I know that most teams are going to camp, with Miami and Florida, Arizona, and Hawaii. Now let's give the Rainbow Warriors and the Wildcats out there in Arizona, let's give them their due. They're playing on week 0 as well. So I will have to take that game and give it a look. What do we have here? UConn, of course, is going to the Big East and all the other sports and going to be a major independent in football. Will owe $17 million as an exit fee to the American Conference. So considering what value UConn brings to the American Conference, I got to think they're saying, yeah, give us the 17 mil. We'll take that instead. UConn football is abysmal right now. They had one of the worst defensive metrics teams that we've seen in recent memory. They did, and so did Oregon State. All right. Pac-12 commissioner exploring idea of 12 a.m. games. Why? I don't understand. Doesn't make any sense. That would have to be explained to me. That might have something to do with the Fox approach that they've taken, that they want to make the noon Eastern time window a prime window, because obviously through the years, most of the big games have been moved to nighttime, a lot of 3:30s, but most of the huge games have been moved to the 8 p.m. time slot, especially on ABC and then the occasional CBS and ESPN, that basically the noon slot has been vacated from having the huge games, and Fox is trying to take advantage of that this year by scheduling some of its biggest games at noon, and therefore the Pac-12 is responding to that by thinking maybe we need to play at 9 o'clock in the morning West Coast time so we can have a prime window of television time at noon Eastern time. But man, those poor kids trying to play at 9 o'clock in the morning. Ouch. All right, Clay Helton focused on USC, not the outside noise. I'm reading the headlines here. Again, Pac-12 commissioner exploring the idea of 9 a.m. games. In-state defensive tackle recruit Roy commits to LSU again. All right. What else in the big live chat here? Pittsburgh sports all the time. Yes, I do. So I had a conversation the other day with Mr. Pigskin Pete on his channel. He was kind enough to reach out to me and ask for an interview. So you all can go over there on Pigskin Pete's channel and check out our conversation, which talked about my background. Pittsburgh sports all the time. Do you think we will see another Clemson-Alabama national championship game? I sure hope not, and I think our dinner hour is on its way. My predictions will be out just before the season, so be looking out for those. We've got position previews all over the place. We're previewing every team, and of course, I'm going to have my season previews, my prognostications, and as I have teased you in the last hour, we will certainly also have some announcements coming your way on some things that are quite exciting surrounding Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So all of you have an exceptional Friday night. And we will see you throughout the weekend with video posts coming every 3 to 4 hours. And we'll strike up the live stream soon. And again, I will figure out what the live stream schedule needs to be during the college football season. So we will get that to you as well. Please like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe. We'll see you very soon right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
Yes, sir.